Hello everyone. I am Carla. I am from Snooze Tots. I'm a paediatric sleep consultant, so help lots of mums and dads with their baby sleep. I'm here for half an hour today to answer all your baby sleep questions. So just type away all your questions and we'll just fire them off with, and I'll try and answer as many as I can in the time. Hi Laura. Any sort of questions on their sleep? Um, And yeah, we'll get started. We'll let a few more people join and then we'll get going. Okay, so let's kick off. Um, so this one is my 17-month-old just doesn't seem to sleep. He has been teething since he was 1 month old, pretty much his whole set of teeth, the last 2 to 3 poking out. He has struggled a lot since he was born with teething. However, I thought by now things would have gotten slightly better, but his sleep seems to be getting worse and I can't understand why. He goes to bed around 7 and wakes up continuously through the night, first time around 9, then around 12, 1, and recently has started fully waking up at 3 to 4, not going back to sleep for hours. He has good meals during the day and 2 naps, one around 10 and 11 and second nap around 2 to 3, and they both probably last 1 hour to 1 hour 30. He's a healthy boy who's hitting his milestones and developing well. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? So 17 months, I would say I would get him onto 1 nap. And I know it's going to be a struggle at the beginning because he's obviously having broken sleep at night and you're using the naps to catch up, but you need to get him onto a 1 nap schedule. So that's first thing. Second, and have that about 12ish, 12:30, have up to a 2 hour nap. And then a bed at 7 is absolutely fine. And also make sure that he is a but if he can't self-settle, if he wakes in the night, you're going to find that he's going to struggle and he's going to cry out and he's all these little wake ups he can't get himself back over. So it doesn't say here whether he can self-settle, but just if he doesn't, then it's something you might want to try and start teaching him to do, because that will help tremendously with the wake up. If he puts himself to sleep at night, when he wakes in the night, he's more likely to just put himself back over and you probably wouldn't even notice. Up. But first of all, start with moving him to 1 nap as well. Any other questions, guys? While I'm waiting, I'll talk to you about when I say you need to teach them to self-settle. That's about finding an approach. There's tons. If you Google self-settling techniques for baby sleep on Google, you're just going to find tons of different techniques, and you'll find the right one for you. Some parents want to be in the room, some parents don't want to be in the room, and that's totally fine. And what works for you and your baby. I just say just do what works for you, and it does take time, it takes practice, and it's something that's a learned skill, self-settling. So once they've learned to put themselves to sleep, they'll be a much better sleeper once you've got everything else in place as well, like the naps, etc. What's the best age to move a toddler into bed? So before 3, they often don't have that ability. So if you say to them to stay in their bed, they probably won't wander out. So you're more likely to have success if you do it about 3 years old, and do it when they're actually showing interest in it. So once they're showing interest and they actually want a bed, then do it. And the longer you can keep them in their cot and they're happy in it, then absolutely. It won't solve your sleep issues by putting, it's very unlikely it's going to solve your sleep issues by putting them into a bed. You need told to move them, obviously, if it's getting dangerous and they're climbing out of their cot. But yeah, if they're happy in their cot, leave them. Most kids around 3 will move into a toddler bed. My 2-year-old will not settle at night time. So Rachel, there's a lot of things that you need to make sure. Are they getting sleep in the day? Are they needing a nap in the day? Do they know how to self-settle? What time's their bedtime? You want a bedtime around 7:30. All these things need to come together. And are they putting themselves to sleep? And if they don't know how to put themselves to sleep, that's something you want to try and start teaching them to do. 2-year-old won't sleep till 11 p.m., then wakes up at 7 a.m. every day, but won't take a nap all day. So more than likely he's now overtired. So when you say he's going to bed at 11, it's probably because he's like past that spot where he's actually ready to go time to bed. So I would start a really nice wind down about 6:30ish, and then try and get him into, it's just a routine thing. So you need to try and get him into a routine of going to bed 7 o'clock and have a nice wind down before that. He may not need a nap. Some kids at 2 may not need a nap, and that's fine. A lot of kids will still take a nap at 2, but if you're saying he doesn't, if he's not taking a nap, but then I would get him down early enough, 6:30, 7 o'clock, and just keep persisting with it, because it's very unlikely that he needs to go to bed at 11, and he's not then getting enough sleep in 24 hours. So it's like the cycle of overtiredness if he's going from 11 till 7. And then no nap in the day. That's not enough sleep in the day as a total 24 hours. So yeah. At what age should babies drop naps? Babies drop naps lots, so it ranges. Youngest I've seen is around 2. And then some kids will still have them at 5 if it doesn't bother, if it doesn't disrupt their night's sleep. Then some kids still have them at that age, but average age is around 3 years old. My 1-month-old squirms and grunts when I put him down to his crib at night. Is there anything I can do? He's 1 month. They do make lots of different noises, and they will get better. I would try just putting on some nice calming white noise, and don't worry about the whole self-settling. He's only a month old. Just also make sure that he's getting the right sleep in the day as well. So at a month, you're looking at about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours sleep in the day. And around about 4 plus 5 naps, maybe 6 naps actually. Every child's slightly different, but just make sure that he's going down with a nice amount of sleep in the day, not too much sleep in the day. Bit of white noise. If you're swaddling him, swaddle him. And have a nice little, you could have a little bedtime routine as well, just a really short bedtime routine just to get him relaxed before bed. My 19-month-old has 1 nap a day, normally between 1 to 2 hours, and still doesn't sleep through the night. What can I do? She wakes up and moans we have to go in and give her a drink to settle her back off. It's been so long of broken sleep, we just want her to go through the whole night. So she's having 1 nap. Because you're offering her, when you say a drink, is it milk, I'm assuming? Because she's then learning to expect that and needing that to go back to sleep, she's going to always do that. So if she's a healthy child and doesn't need the milk, then it's probably advised to not offer that anymore. So you want to use a settling approach. So that maybe you want to do something where you sit in the room with her, and you gradually move out the room. Look up gradual retreat, so that she just gets used to putting herself back to sleep. The nap sounds fine, that she's having 1 to 2 hours at her age. That's totally fine. Aim for about a 7 o'clock bed. But I would just make sure that she knows how to self-settle, and if she's waking in the night, you're responding to her in the same way as you did at bedtime, to get her to just be putting herself back to sleep when she wakes in the night. That's how you get rid of the wake-ups. 14-month-old waking at 4 a.m. suddenly. No routine has changed. Naps once or twice a day. I follow the correct wake windows, maximum 4.5 hours, and total daytime sleep is around 2 hours. Bedtime is 6:30. I am exhausted. So what I would do is, because you said that you're going naps once or twice a day, I would commit to just going down to 1 nap a day and get him onto that schedule. So aim for a 12:30 nap. And I mean, because he's waking up at 4, you might need to make it slightly earlier at 12, and stick to that. So don't jump between the two, 1 naps and 2 naps. you need to just stick to one schedule, otherwise his body's just getting confused. So 6:30, because he's not used to napping just once a day every day, start with a 6:30 bed and have him have his just lunchtime nap, just one nap, and do that for a couple of weeks to see if that starts making him wake up a little bit later. My girl has encephalitis and wants any help, please. Literally having about 2 hours sleep a day. I need to know a bit more about what encephalitis is, and if it's anything medically related that might be affecting their sleep, then I would speak to your doctor first. My 4-month wakes up 4 to 5 times throughout the night, mainly for me to put his dummy back in, but slams his legs against the cot until I wake up and see to him. And he still wanted to feed 3-4 times throughout the night. Please can you give me some advice? Okay, so 4 months old, still very young. The problem with a dummy is that at that age they can't put it back in themselves. So they're always, when they wake and it's fallen out, they're going to want you to come in and put it back in for them. So it's up to you whether you want to get rid of it, but it might be actually a good age to start getting rid of the dummy and teaching your baby to self-settle. So I'll do a really gentle approach and start teaching him to fall asleep without the dummy, because ultimately he's always going to wake and you're always going to have to be a dummy butler putting it back in. They still might need it. He might still need a feed in the night, and that's totally normal. But if it's 3 to 4 times, it's likely to be a couple of those are going to be comfort feeds, because he's using the feed to go back to sleep. So first of all, work on self-settling, really gentle, gradual approach to it, and it might be worth giving up using the dummy and teaching him to fall asleep without it, because that will stop the wake ups, or at least reduce them. And also make sure that he's getting the right sleep in the day. So because the day sleep will affect the night sleep as well. So at 4 months, you're looking at roughly about wake times of about 2 hours, maximum day sleep of 4 hours. And that's usually across 3 to 4 naps. So I've just moved my nearly 2-year-old to toddler bed as she was climbing out of her cot. She will not stay in her bed. She gets up to play with her toys. I just don't know how to keep her in the bed. This is what I was talking about earlier. When they're before 3, it's really hard, but I get why you've had to, because it's getting dangerous that she's climbing out of her cot. It's one of these things, and it's really hard because you can tell her that she's got to stay in her bed, and she's not probably going to listen. She's got an urge and she's going to want to do it. The only thing you can keep doing is if she comes out of her climbing out, if she comes into your room, is she coming into your room? She gets up to play with her toys. If she's getting up and she's playing with her toys in her room and it's not bothering anyone, then I would leave her as long as she gets back into her bed. But if she's coming into your room and you want to just silently return her with limited interaction, and it's going to be one of these things where you just keep on silently returning her to her bed. If it's a case of her she's just playing in her own room on her own and not bothering anyone, then I would just leave her to it and hope. And if she gets back into her bed, great. If it goes on too long, then silently return her back to her bed as well. But just also make sure, if she's getting the right sleep in the day. So 2 years old, just she probably does still need a nap. I don't. It's every individual, but if she's still having a nap, make sure she's having a nap around lunchtime, like 12:30. But then make sure that there's a nice enough stretch at bedtime. So between, every kid's slightly different, but 5 to 7 hours wait time between that nap ending and bedtime. My little girl has just turned 1. Is there any technique that isn't just to let them cry or control crying? Absolutely. You do not need to use just control crying, especially at 1. Let me just take a sip of water 1 second, guys. Yeah, so pick up gradual retreat. You stay in the room and you can comfort her, and then you just gradually move out over the course of about 10 days, you move further and further away your chair, just move it further back, but you're with her. And then by the time you get to the door, she's not really bothered with you being there anymore. But yeah, absolutely, you don't have to use control crying. In fact, one I would say a really good approach is using a gradual retreat approach. Yeah, so Aisha, I probably wouldn't brain swelling if she's on anti-seizure medication. I would speak to a sleep specialist because I wouldn't be able to recommend anything if there's any sort of medical issues. Um, my month-old wakes up every 2 hours and feeds at night. During the day, she will sleep maximum 1.5 hours in 2 naps. She has 3 meals during the day. Can I do anything? So 9 months, she should be on 2 naps. That's fine. And I'm not quite clear. Are you meaning she's having, so she's having 1.5 hours across the 2 naps? Because are you meaning that she's having 1.5 hour in one and 1.5 hour? You're aiming for roughly about 3 hours total sleep. So if it's that she's having a total of 1.5 hours, you need to try and get her to have a little bit more sleep. So that could be due to when you're doing the naps. So the wake time's correct, what time you're putting her down for her naps. So play around with the wake times for those 2 naps. And is she able to self-settle? Because if she's waking up every 2 hours and feeds at night, she's probably using the feed to go back to sleep, and she doesn't know how to put herself back to sleep independently. So work on self-settling and you'll see her sleep improve massively. Yeah, thank you. Our 18 months still has a dummy. How do we wean her off it at night time? As I think this may be another reason why she's still waking at night. So, two things. If you want to keep the dummy and if it's falling out, then you need to, if she's crying out for you to put it back in, the best thing you can do is scatter. If you want to keep it, you scatter them around the cot so that she's got, there's like 5 or 6 of them all around her. So if it fell out, she can stick it back straight back in. If it's that you want to get rid of the dummy, the simplest way is going cold turkey. I personally think you just get rid of the dummy and that's it. You don't give it to her in a day and you just get rid of it. And she'll actually soon forget about it quicker than you imagined. Might be a couple of rough nights where she needs to get used to not having it, but after that, it should be absolutely fine. Yeah, so Agata, the 40 minutes and 40 minutes. So yeah, you want to try and get the naps at the right time, self-settling so that she's doing, because if she's just doing 40-minute naps, she's getting to the end of a sleep cycle and she can't connect to the next one. So really work on self-settling, making sure the naps at the right time of day. They might be too early, might be too late. I need to know a little bit more about timings. So my 1-year-old is having one nap in the day. She goes to bed about 7:30, but then wakes up at 10:14 and won't sleep through the night. I've tried everything. What can you recommend? So 1 year old is quite young to be on one nap. Was it because she was showing signs, so she was resisting one nap for a couple of weeks, and you moved her to one nap? Because I'm wondering if actually she needs the 2 naps. And yes, that's the first thing. Second of all, does she know how to self-settle? I've seen this a lot today because ultimately, if they can put themselves sleep, that's when you're going to find that the wake up's reduced. So if she's waking up at 10, 1, 4, and 6, I imagine she doesn't know how to self-settle. Make sure that's the second thing you want to do. Can she self-settle? Does she actually need a bit more sleep in the day? And because she might be having one nap and she's going to bed really tired, which the overtiredness is going to cause the wake ups. So those are the couple of things I would look at. How can I help her with self-setting? She cries a lot if not held, fed, even if I'm close. So you need to do something really gradual, and I'll look up again that gradual retreat approach, because that's more for sensitive babies where you are in the room. You can comfort them, and it's just you're there and you're comforting them, but the minute they stop crying is the time that you sit back and let them put themselves to sleep. And then just gradually move further away. It's going to take a lot of practice and commitment from you. It won't be over. It's unlikely to be the first night you try that everything goes perfectly. It could take over an hour the first night of doing it. But if you stick with it, you'll find that she'll start learning. It's a learned skill. And because she's also a little bit older, she's so used to you putting her to sleep, it's all changed. So they will protest, they will get a little bit upset, but you're there comforting her. That's the most gentle way you could do it. Any other questions, guys? Flew through those questions. Okay, so almost 5 months old, how many naps during the day and for how long? So you're looking at about 3 naps in the day, wake time of about 2 hours 15, some will take shorter wake time, some will be slightly longer. Maximum day sleep of about 3.5 to 4 hours. A lot will just take 3.5 hours. Every child has slightly different sleep needs, but that's roughly how much you're looking for. Yeah, I gave her a bath and bottle and then just put her to bed on her own, let herself settle. She sleeps for like 2 hours when she's a nap in the day. She settles down with a bottle if she wakes during the night, but then wakes up again. So when you say she settles down with a bottle, she wakes during the night, but then wakes up again. She used to have a good routine, but since being in hospital, she just won't sleep now. So if she's been in hospital, it can disrupt their sleep. And it's ultimately about if she's all healthy now and fine, then you might want to start response. So in the night, instead of if you were going to keep offering her a bottle in the night, she's going to just keep on waiting for a bottle. So you kind of need to go back to basics. If she knew how to self settle, then you need to let her teach her to do that in the middle of the night as well. So that's how you're going to get rid of those wake ups. If you want to do it really gradually, so if she's taking a bottle of every wake up, maybe take one feed, and the rest of them you need to use a settling approach and get her to go back to sleep without the feed. So night terrors, just make sure it's not a nightmare and night terrors. Night terrors, the best thing you can do is you'll need to just sit back and let them, if you go and try and interrupt them while they're going through a night terror, um, it's not going to be good. So just sit back and wait for the night terror to finish and then offer them the comfort. It's not nice to watch, but you're not going to be able to wake them out of it. So just let it finish and then be there to comfort them when it ends and just make sure that they're safe. Sometimes also with night terrors, you just need to check, is it because of things like overtiredness can cause them. So just make sure that they're on a really good schedule as well. Any other questions? We out of questions, guys. Give it another couple of minutes. Okay, so my 5 month old sleeps only 30 minutes each nap, 3 to 4 times a day. Is that enough? So 5 months old, their sleep can sometimes, if they don't know how to fall asleep themselves, it can be inconsistent, and it will develop as they get a little bit older. If you wanted to start teaching them to self settle, they will start taking longer naps, because what's happening is they're at the end of a cycle. They can't get connect cycles themselves, so they're going to wake up and expect either you to get them back to sleep, or they're just going to be up. So it's so if she's probably not getting enough sleep in the day. So she's only getting, if she's having 3 naps, for instance, that's an hour and a half. And at 5 months, you're looking roughly at around 3.5 hours sleep. So her sleep's kind of, she's not getting enough. So you'd want to try work on extending those naps. Lots of nap extending techniques. So things that you can do. So for instance, if she always wakes up at 30 minutes, at 25 minutes, go over to her and you could, for instance, put your hand on her chest and try and keep her under before she rouses out of that sleep, and you could shush her. You can work on self-settling, and that will naturally, she'll practice, she'll start extending her sleep. Also, just make sure those wake times are right. So roughly around the 2 hour 15 mark, getting her down for her next sleep. Okay, should my 2.5-year-old still be having a nap during the day? He wakes up about 8:30, goes for a nap around 12:30, 2 hours, then goes back to bed. He's always ready for bed by that time. Sounds crazy, but he's sleeping too much. I mean, it sounds pretty ideal that he's waking up at 8:30, Tanya. I'd say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that's the saying. It sounds pretty good, so I would leave everything as is. If he was like waking up in the night, or he was waking up super early in the morning, I'd say okay, so maybe you need to change something. But while he's waking up at 8:30 in the morning and he sleeps for 2 hours and he's going to bed around 6:37, maybe he has higher sleep needs, which isn't an issue. He sounds like he's doing really well, so I would leave everything as is. There's no problems. Parents, Tanya, would be jealous. 8:30 in the morning, they're getting up. How much nap time should my 10-month-old have? 10 months maximum, about 2.5 hours. Some will have slightly more if they've got higher sleep needs, and some need slightly less, but around that point of 2.5 hours day sleep that they should have. And that'll be across the 2 naps. A half an hour gone. Probably have time for one more question, guys. So send them in. No? Okay. Let's leave it there. I hope you guys have found that super useful. Really good questions today. There's been lots of really good ones. So yeah, so I'm back on here, not next week. The following week I'm on Facebook. Next week I'll be doing just Instagram Q&As. So yeah, send them in if you've got any questions, and if you need extra help, I'll be back on here, not next week, the following Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.